Hey, hunters. Yeah, this is gonna be fun. Welcome to the last video for the One D&D comparisons, comparing the various classes in their incarnations across One D&D playtests, and talking about the best and worst aspects of each, and kind of looking at them all and giving a retrospective of sorts. Here we have the Warlock, which is the third mage that I'm doing, and by far going to be probably the longest video because there's a lot to mention and a lot to talk about. So, yeah, let's get started. Because this is probably going to take over an hour. Because Sorcerer was an hour, so this is probably going to be longer. Right off the bat, you'll notice, wait, they're not just charisma based. That was an interesting idea, but we'll get into a problem with a slight issue that comes up here. But then we notice they're half-casters, and they prepare spells now. Even though, once again, they don't prepare spells, they learn them. So yeah, I'm just going to call them a learned caster, because that is what they are. Doesn't matter that it says prepared. You learn spells. That's how it works. And yeah, them being a half-caster. Let's get this out of the way now. Half-casters that try to be dedicated casters suck. Artificer is already a piece of jank because it tries to be a dedicated caster that is a half-caster. It's not great. And granted, there's other problems with Artificer, most notably the subclass parts. But hey, it's, it is what it is. But yeah. And on a second note, it's like, okay, I get your idea that they have more consistent, spells per day. But it removes what made them special. Like, they were special because they didn't work like other casters. And this is just like, oh yeah, you're just a dedicated caster with half the spell slots. You don't even get the high-level spell slots by default anymore. You progress at half the rate, meaning you don't get your full arsenal until the end of the game, which means you might as well not have the high-level stuff. And ultimately, the problem with their spells per day was never that Pact Magic was just bad or didn't work. The problem was, just as with everything else based on short rests, the problem is short rests themselves being way too long to the point people don't take them. Nobody wants to waste an hour just for a few classes to get stuff. It's not fun. So here it's just like, yeah, no, this sucks. And there's yet another problem. Yeah, we'll get to that when we start talking about invocations. Because, oh boy, have they not. And, spoiler alert, invocations only get, they're still bad in the next version. But this, it's just, this is just bad. It's like, no. Just no. But to start, also, you'll notice that they have medium armor by default now, which is interesting, because only Pact of the Blade needed that. Like, it's very powerful now, because it's like, okay, well, now all these casters have medium armor. I mean, sure, you don't have good spellcasting anymore, so it, I guess, kind of compensates for the fact that they gimped your casting ability, but I only really, you only needed it on Pact of the Blade, so yeah. And you don't even get shields on them. But, let's start off with the actual class features. And we start off with Pact Boon, actually. Besides spellcasting, but that's a whole other mess. And this is actually awesome and cool. So, the Pact Boon, it's now at first level instead of third, which I actually love. I hated third level Pact Boons. Especially because, oh boy, if you tried to pick Pact of the Blade. If you didn't realize Pact of the Blade existed and wanted to take it, yeah, no, that's not happening if you didn't prepare for it from the start. And it's part of the... So, yeah, it's one that you could absolutely screw up, and honestly was only good once Xanathars came out, after which you were only using it with Hexblade Patron. But here, they decided, okay, so Pact Boon's at first level. Also, you get Eldritch Blast and Hex for free. So you always know them. Hex, okay, cool. It's, you know, a spell for Warlocks that's traditionally been a Warlock thing that they have. I like it. It's nice here. Also, they changed Hex and Hunter's Mark to be once per round here, which, while the damage was still D6 and should have been upgraded to D8s, I do like the idea that you do have Hex only once per round. So, specifically, stuff like high-level Eldritch Blasts and Scorching Rays don't break the heck out of the spell. Also, for Pact of the Blade, you're not worse than a fighter with this spell. Same with Hunter's Mark, where a ranger's actually worse with Hunter's Mark than a fighter or even monk. So, yeah. Having them once per turn, I like. Mostly because it's just like, yeah, no, you can't break this with more attacks. Which is a change I welcome. Eldritch Blast, however, has a very weird change. So, they decided Eldritch Blast would only scale with your class level in Warlock. That really sucks. Because the biggest problem is if you multi-class with a caster, suddenly your Eldritch Blast is absolutely terrible because you multi-classed, when all your other cantrips are actually decent and scale the same as they always did. So yeah, that was stupid. But I get where they're coming from, where they don't want Eldritch Blast to be very powerful. But instead, they made Pact of the Blade even more insane as a one-level dip. Because they can use Wisdom or Charisma. Okay, well, it didn't really matter because Pact Weapon didn't work, right? Well, all the packs have a cantrip now, and you get to choose your spellcasting ability from one of two options, which is kind of cool. Blade was Wisdom or Charisma, so okay, that's neat. Chain is Intelligence or Charisma, and Pact of the Tome is Intelligence or Wisdom, which is really cool, because, yeah, you're a guy with a book. You're smarter. It makes sense. And also is something I've actually used on my current Warlock, as we had our fighter change into a paladin, and then we were getting a bard as well instead of a cleric, so I decided, hey, could I switch to being a wisdom caster? Because I don't want to be a third charisma caster when we already have two others. So I actually have changed to wisdom using this as an excuse to get it. But they all have a pact spell, which is a cantrip. So what do these cantrips do? And we're going to go up. Didn't really do this much previously, but I'm going to do it here because it's kind of relevant to look at what they actually did. So, let's start with Pact of the Blade. Easily the biggest change And this is the one I say, they just about got this right. There is a critique, though. But basically, conjuration, action, lasts 24 hours. You summon a simpler martial weapon of your choice. It has to be melee. It can't be heavy, but you can also touch a magic weapon with this. Not a fan of the lacking heavy property, especially with the problem that you don't get a shield anymore. You're stuck with medium armor. That's it. Which, sure, it's okay, but I would have liked to have a shield if I can't use a two-hander. So, yeah, it's like, you know, you're taking a versatile weapon and always using it versatile. However, at the very least, so you have proficiency with it, of course, and if it has the thrown property, it immediately returns to your hand after the attack. Great. But Eldritch Warrior. Oh boy. When you attack with the weapon, you use your spellcasting ability modifier for the attack and damage rolls. Hallelujah. Screw you, Hexblade. Get out of here. Pact of the Blade works on its own. It no longer needs Hexblade to survive. Sure, you can still take it to get shield proficiency, but doesn't really matter. This is awesome. Just, it's so good. The problem, though, you can choose Wisdom as your spellcasting ability score. This means a kind of issue that Warlock had in the past was it's an overpowered one-level dip. Specifically for the Paladin, Valor and Sword Bards, as well as a few others. But basically, you could get Charisma for your attack rolls, and you could really use that well. This gets even crazier because suddenly, oh wait, Rangers and Clerics can use this now to get Wisdom for attack rolls. You can also use it on Druid, but there's not much benefit to that. Because outside of Circle of Spores, there's not much reason to do it. But the point is, this works with more classes. So suddenly, this became even sillier to multi-class with. But there's another part. When you reach 5th levels of Warlock, your Pact Boon cantrip upgrades. And for Pact of the Blade, it's just Thirsting Blade. Honestly, I love this as well. It's just, yes, please. I automatically get an upgrade. And it's one of the 2 auto-pick cantrips. Or invocations. It's like, yes. Screw having to waste an invocation on getting Thirsting Blade. Because, like, why wouldn't you take Thirsting Blade? It's Thirsting Blade. So, you get Thirsting Blade by default with Pact of the Blade. Yes. Perfection. Like, sure, you don't get heavy weapons and shields, but everything else couldn't be better. And, I mean, sure, you don't get the mastery either, but it's just a feat away, and it's not too big a deal. So, let's look at Book of Shadows. So, Book of Shadows is kind of interesting, because, I will say, so basically, it's a cantrip now, so you can constantly, change it up. So it's now a spellcasting focus, so you basically get a free spell focus, which, honestly, I'm fine with. It's great. But yeah, that's cool. I mean, it's not something, like, I'm currently using much, but it's nice to have it where, yeah, you have this book, you cast stuff with it. Great. And they added the ritual stuff in. So basically you can choose any 2 cantrips and 2 first level spells with the ritual tag. from any list, and you always have them. Nice. The one problem is, though, that Book of Ancient Secrets let you add spells to your... it let you add more rituals later. This doesn't. I would like that back, Wizards. It was really nice to get all the rituals you could want. Or maybe, like, keep Book of Ancient Secrets around where it lets you add more. But this, it's fine. And as an additional aside, losing 2 cantrips, like, going from 3 cantrips to 2, it's honestly fine with this version because, A, in practice, you have an extra Warlock cantrip known because Eldritch Blast is by default now, so it doesn't have to take up a cantrip known. So your cantrip tax is removed, so you basically get an extra cantrip anyway. And this is a cantrip itself, so getting 3 is kind of silly. And you use the arcane list now, so you're not very limited on your cantrips known. What cantrips you can pick, even. So, it's fine. Like, losing the extra cantrip known, so be it. Because in practice, you actually have 1 more anyway as a Warlock. So, the net, it doesn't really matter. Because usually you're picking spells on the arcane list anyway with it, so it's good. And the rituals by default, I like it actually. It's nice to have that added in. And then the cantrip upgrade. I do have a problem with it, but we're going to mention it with the invocations because it's relevant there. But you get Agonizing Blast, but better. Because you basically get to, like, anytime you do a cantrip. So, anytime you cast a cantrip, you add your spell mod to the damage roll. So if it doesn't already add it, boom, it's added. Though that doesn't really matter too much, with one exception that is the Celestial, and if you had Agonizing Blast for some reason. But yeah, it's nice. This is great. It basically frees up an Invocation Known again. It's like, yeah, you're taking Agonizing Blast anyway. Here, we'll give it to you for free and make it work like it should have from the start. Except maybe make it where it's once per cast. Because, once per target per cast. Because, yeah, I would very greatly appreciate if Eldritch Blast was not stacking ridiculously. Please, Wizards. I really want this to work where I can cast any cantrip without losing too much damage. Please. We're almost there. We've almost got it with this version. It's very close. And last but not least, we have Pact Familiar for Pact of the Chain. So, the basics. Yeah. Put simply, it now has a template. Instead of just casting normal Find Familiar and choosing one of 4 extra types, you get to just choose any type you want and make it has 1 stat block, but you get to make any familiar you want. Thank you, Wizards! This has been a pet peeve problem of mine from the beginning, where originally only 2 patrons made sense to have Pact of the Chain, and that was Fae and Fiend. Now, it doesn't matter. I can choose whatever makes sense for my build. If I'm Great Old One, I can make it an Aberration. If I'm Celestial, I have a Celestial Companion. If I'm the Fiend, it's a Fiend. If I'm Undead or Hexblade, it's Undead. Boom. Whatever flavor I want it to be, it is. I don't have to worry about just having 4 options that are good and then be stuck with those 4. Even if it doesn't make sense. Like, if I'm Celestial, what the heck do I pick? Because it's either I'm picking a Fiend for some ungodly reason, or I'm getting a Dragon or Fae. Those don't make sense for Celestial. And this is so, so nice. I love it. And of course, you can use your action to command it to attack. Great. Thank you. Makes it a lot more powerful and useful. You can see through its eyes. Like, hear through it. Nice. The not nice part, though, the cantrip upgrade. So, after 2 amazing cantrip upgrades that are perfect for the build, what do we get? At 5th level, you can communicate telepathically with your familiar from anywhere on the same plane of existence. I already had 120-foot telepathy with it. Okay. And while I'm perceiving through its senses, I can speak through the familiar in my own voice. Yay! I get a niche utility invocation as my free invocation. Yay. This sucks. I mean, to be fair, it scales up with your level anyway, but it's such a letdown with the cantrip upgrade where the other 2 were so good, yet this is just so bad. You might as well ignore this, because it's just like, it might as well do this by default. It wouldn't change much. And I think, and another nitpick is that what your familiar's type affects is just the damage type. That's it. So this means also that Celestial is very powerful and Fiend is absolute crap because it's poison damage. And I will also say, I get the idea that they wanted it to all be different damage types, but I don't think anyone would mind if both Fiend did and Undead did Necrotic, and then both Aberration and Fey did Psychic. It'd be fine. I wouldn't mind. I don't think anyone else would mind. It's an unnecessary thing. They don't have to be different. Also, perhaps it could be Spellbind instead of half level with the damage, but yeah. And, I mean, the damage, adding half level, it's actually not half bad, because it can scale up pretty well. But I do think, and also that's all the type does. So I think my suggestion would be, make the cantrip upgrade a different ability depending on the type of creature. So if it's an aberration, it has something maybe to do with, like, madness or something. Maybe the Fae has a charm ability of some sort. Perhaps the Fiend frightens or something. The dragon has, like, a dragon breath, because of course it does. Celestial has, like, a heal or shield ability. And Undead, perhaps, has a kind of self-heal or something. But overall, I think, and also you get invisibility for free on it. I mean, it's the best one anyway, so it's good. It's like, I mean, let's be honest, you wanted the invisibility part anyway, so having it by default, great. It can also fly by default too, so that's also great. But overall, I think this is so much better than normal Pact of the Chain. It's, all my problems are gone. The only issue is literally a problem comparing it to the other 2, where they got actually good cantrip upgrades. Pact of the Chain doesn't, and it's really a letdown. But yeah, that's your Pact boons. Awesome. Like, far and away the best thing. The only other thing I would say is, since I doubt they're bringing back spellcasting ability, because that gets absolutely stupid when it was already stupid with multiclassing before, I think I would rather have extra proficiencies, so Pact of the Blade can specifically get medium armor and shields. Please. Pair that with them. It'd be perfect. Then Chain could get, like, a social skill, because you work with someone else, so having a social interaction thing kind of fits. And then Tome gets a knowledge skill, because of course they do. They're supposed to be more studious anyway, so yeah, it fits. It's great. Spellcasting is absolute garbage because you're a half-caster now. Let's move on. Elven Invocations. That's a whole nutshell. So, yeah. Subclass at 3rd level. Honestly, with the move to Pact Boons, I'm the most fine with Warlock having their subclass move to 3rd level. I still don't like it, but with the Pact Boon change, I'm fine with it. It works okay. Then we have very few stuff. Then at 11th level, you have Contact Other Plane. And you always know it. And you can cast it once without a spell slot each day to contact the patron and automatically succeed on the saving throw. So basically, you just get to call your patron, which, why couldn't we do this before? So, yeah. Just like with the cleric stuff, sure, it's a fluff thing. It's a spell as a feature, but honestly, it makes sense that you can do this. It's like, yeah, of course you can call your patron for stuff. Go ahead. It adds a lot of flavor and fun. Then 18th level Hexmaster. You can cast Hex at will. Okay. I mean, it's nice, but you know, used to be in 4th edition, you could just Warlock's Curse at will anyway. Sure, it didn't work as smoothly as Hex does, but point remains. Yeah, 18th level. You're more like a 4th edition Warlock, which was actually pretty cool, minus the cantrip selection being, the at-will selection being pretty bad. But, oh well. More because you didn't choose them. Invocations. So, right off the bat, let's mention this. All the cast once per day using a spell slot invocations are gone. Out of here. Good riddance. They suck. Instead, Mystic Arcanum is now an invocation. What the hell were you thinking, wizards? So basically, ignoring everything else, you have Mystic Arcanum, which you can take multiple times. Each time you take it, getting a different spell level. So you could theoretically take this with every invocation and get a bunch more spell slots. Or basically, it's like once per day you can use it. So what you can do now, and the best thing to do with your invocations, unless you're Pact of the Blade, is literally just take lessons of the first ones for Magic Initiate feat. Mostly because you get 2 cantrips out of it. So it's better than getting Mystic Arcanum for a 1st level spell. And then everything else is Mystic Arcanum. Just all Mystic Arcanum every level. For 2nd through 9th. That's it. That's the best way to build a Warlock, because it gives you way more spell slots and gives you a bunch of powerful spells from the Arcane list. Yeah. So much for anything else existing. Unless you're Pact of the Blade, in which case you can actually take other stuff. But, yeah. So there's a lot of stuff. Book of Ancient Secrets melded in with Book of Shadows. And also you get default ritual casting. The only problem I have is that you can't learn more rituals anymore, so that was a nice thing to have, and I would have liked if I could keep that. Beguiling Influence, it's part of Lessons of the first one, which can be used for the skilled feat. Okay. You could use it for any feat, but skilled is a good one to get it with. Of course, once per day as a spell slot is all part of Mystic Arcanum, which, honestly, I'm actually fine with, because at the very least, it's better than those, where you could actually cast it. You can cast it for free now, so, yeah. Few others. Eyes of the Runekeeper. It now automatically deciphers texts. It doesn't decipher secret messages, though, so A good clarification. Because it'd be kind of stupid if it did. There's now Favor of the Chainmaster. Gains 2 minds is a bonus action. Doesn't blind and deafen you. And it lets you cast creatures spells from that space. So, yeah. It is 5th level required now, but yeah, it's fine. I don't mind it like this. Hexer's new. Gift of the Protectors is here from Tasha's. Nice. Life Shrinker is now moved up, and it has been modified. So instead of just adding plus charisma to the damage, instead it's now an extra 1d6 damage each time you hit. And the first time you get HP equal to the necrotic damage. One nitpick I'm going to give this is sometimes you don't want the first damage roll to actually be the heal. For example, if you rolled a nat 1. Yeah. I would very much appreciate if this was changed to be you choose when you do it. That way, if you rolled a nat 1 or even a 2, you could bank the proc and then do it with the next attack instead. Just because of situations like you rolled a nat 1 for the first time, and then the second time you rolled a 6, and it's like, ah, crap. But, yeah, that's just a kind of... There's some quirks to that one. Means Chaos, gone. Mystic Arcana was here. Repelling Blast is now larger, smaller to fit with other push abilities. I still wish this was once per target per turn. Please. Just please stop people stacking these. Please. And then which side? It's just tree sight. 30 feet now. Which, kind of what it did before, but oh well. Thirsting Blade, of course, is part of Pact Weapon. So, nice. And Voice of the Chainmaster is also part of the Pact spell, so, yeah. That, like, I don't mind. It was kind of sucky as an invocation anyway, but, yeah. But, talking about the new ones, Favor of the Chainmaster. This should be the cantrip upgrade, in my opinion. Because it gives you a different ability depending on what it is. So, it's pretty much whenever it hits, it does something. So, Aberration slows. And they can't dash or disengage either, which is absurd. And some of these are actually very powerful, so it might be maybe change a bit. Celestial gives advantage on the next attack. And it also negates invisibility. Nice. Dragon can knock medium or smaller creatures prone. Kind of meh. Especially when you're a caster, so that can lead to problems. Beguiling Fae. Charms people. Okay. It's nice. Fiend. They really hate Fiend because it's poison condition. Yeah. I mean, it's actually powerful when it actually works, but freaking poisoned? Ugh. I hate it. Fiend is just... It went from, yeah, you always take the Fiends, to Fiend absolutely sucks. Why the hell would you use it? Even if you're a Fiend Warlock. Yeah. Undead has Whispers of the Grave, which is frightened. Yeah. It's nice. Albeit the charm is kind of weird because you deal damage and then they're charmed. It's like, okay. I mean, this is nice. I like it. Though I kind of feel like an ability like this should be the baseline upgrade, but probably tune these a little bit to make Dragon a bit better, and then Fiend actually decent and usable, and nerf Aberration because that one's crazy. Celestial might need tuning as well. Hexer. The heck is this? Like, 600-foot range. Rarely is that useful. Like, the full 600 at least. I mean, sure, you can actually... What this does let you do, though, is kind of silly. You need Spell Sniper and Eldritch Spear, because that gives you a 600-foot Eldritch Blast. And then you can get a 600-foot Hex and Eldritch Blast still. And you also get advantage on Constitution saving throws with it, but... Yeah, there's already an invocation that does that. So, yeah. Kind of a bad invocation. It has uses, but most of the time I don't need a ridiculous range hex. And the concentration part is redundant with other stuff. There's other ways to get that. So, yeah, overall, I think the invocations... The one good one is Favor the Chain Master, and the fact that Thirsting Blade is now part of Pact of the Blade by default. Thank you, Wizards. Then we get to Agonizing Blast, which is still here for some ungodly reason. So, a bit of context for my problem. When designing 5.5, I ended up deciding that I'm going after Eldritch Blast. I don't like its power level. And specifically how it's just so powerful compared to any other cantrip you could use as a Warlock. It's like, why use anything else? It's, you get it, every hit does plus spell mod damage. Why wouldn't you just use that exclusively? Like, the only builds that don't use it are the Hexblade, Pact of the Blade builds. That's it. And Agonizing Blast is still here. But, what I did was, I'm like, first off, it's Agonizing Spells. It works on every spell. Then I decided it's going to be once per target per turn. But I also ran into an issue where, and this is before One D&D, I was deciding, you know what, I want to bring in more features to each Pact boon. They're going to have 3 features now. This is just like fighting styles, but I decided that for the 6th level feature, immediately I thought, Pact of the Blade gets Thirsting Blade. Frees up an invocation. Boom. Pact of the Chain, wasn't sure yet, though I eventually decided you get a buffed familiar temporarily, and you make it a Pact Summon Spirit for a of the type that is relevant to your build. So basically, if you're a Fiend Warlock, it's a Summon Fiend. Fae, Summon Fae. Great Old One, Summon Aberration, etc., etc. But there's also slight differences in how I got to the type is actually relevant, where my idea was make it actually care about your patron, but that doesn't really work here. So, yeah. I do like this version for not having the subclass at 1st level as well. Because I would prefer if it was just like, oh, yeah, the extra choices are based on your patron instead. But it doesn't work here. But then Pact of the Tome was kind of difficult, because, like, what do I do? And then I realized that there was a problem. Anyone could take Agonizing Spells as an invocation. In Pact of the Tome, I decided I wanted to be more of a dedicated spellcaster. So I decided, you know what? They should have Agonizing Spells. They're the dedicated casters, so they get to be the best at spellcasting. And it stopped Pact of the Chain, and to a lesser extent Pact of the Blade, from taking Agonizing Spells and being just as good with spells, if not better overall, than Pact of the Tome. So I decided, okay, Agonizing Blast, it's gone. Agonizing Spells on Tome is their 6th level feature. It frees up an invocation slot for them, so you don't have to take it to do good spell damage. And it stops other builds from doing crazy stuff with cantrips. Here, Agonizing Blast still exists. Granted, only Pact of the Chain's taking it, and Back to the Talisman, if for some ungodly reason you're picking that, even though it doesn't even exist in this version yet. So yeah, it kind of defeats the point of the cantrip upgrade for Pact the Tome. And once you get to 5th level, you want to swap Agonizing Blast out because it's a wasted slot. And it's like you can get this at 2nd level, and then you have it, and until 5th level, you use it. No, it shouldn't be around anymore. And I prefer the idea that this goes away entirely in favor of the Pact of the Tome upgrading to get plus spell mod to all cantrips. But that has been Playtest 5. I will also mention, honorable mention to Armor of Shadows still existing, even though it's an invocation you literally only take as a sorcerer or wizard through Eldritch Adept. No warlock will ever want this, especially because you have medium armor now, and this somehow survived. It's like, okay, yeah, this was never good, and now it gets even sillier because it doesn't even really matter because you can just get medium armor and be better. It's just, oh, poor Armor of Shadows. It still sucks so much. But on to playtest 7. So, hello. Back to Pact Magic. Hallelujah. They listened and realized, oh crap, people don't like this. Instead, they have a few other ideas. However, Pact Boons are gone? So, your response to Pact Boons are amazing now, and such a good rendition of Pact Boons is remove Pact Boons, make them invocations. What? Just what? And, of course, Mystic Arcanum is back. It's not an invocation anymore. It's back to doing what it did, because you're a Pact Mage again. Yes. So much better. I can actually choose my invocations now. Well, kind of. We'll get to this, because it's a whole can of worms. So you do get more invocations now. You did actually get more invocations in this version, but it was kind of marred by the fact that Mystic Arcanum existed. But yeah, here you get an extra one because you get one at 1st level now. Yeah. Still spells prepared, even though they're spells known. Still hate it. Spell slot progression is still exactly the same as it was. Ugh. Please give them the 3rd spell slot here, and then make them scale to 5 by default. Please, Wizards. I don't want to spend half the game with 2 spell slots, even if they are increasing in level. It's not fun. Let me cast more spells early. Please. But then we get to the actual features. So, they only get light armor again, which, by default, absolutely fair. Just, this is good. This is fine. And you also lost Hex and Eldritch Blast by default. Once again, an awesome change removed. So now I only have one cantrip known because I have to take Eldritch Blast because it's so much more powerful than anything else still. Yay. So, yeah. Few changes to the spell list happened. Bane, Detect Magic, and Speak with Animals are all by default now. So you automatically know them. Which, it's honestly nice. And especially because Bane was like, yeah, no, I don't want this. I do not want to take the Bane one. Invocation because it was once per day using a spell slot. Now, it's just a normal spell. Yay. So much better. Detect Magic and Speak with Animals, though, kind of meh. it was nice being able to get at-will detect magic and speak with animals, but, oh well, you didn't take them often, but that's mostly because Agonizing Blast existed, and yeah. Magical Cunning. Once per day, you can spend a minute to get half your spell slots. So, for half the game, I get one spell slot back. Once per day, I can get a spell slot back. And then for the second half, I get 2. Okay. This is better than nothing. But what the heck? Could this not be... Oh, I get my whole spell slots back? It's not that crazy. Like... Or at least make this have multiple uses a day? Like, come on. Once per day I get a spell slot back for half the frickin' game. Yeah, no, Wizards, I hate this. It's so bad. Like, it's just a little band-aid for a massive wound. It's like, yeah, so what? Or, better yet, just fix short rests. Then we don't have a problem here. That would be nice, too. It's just so bad. So bad. Ugh. And as a side note, as negative as I'm going to be, this version, with one standout exception, it wouldn't be bad if it released like this. It's just it could be so much better, and they're close to being really good. But Magical Cunning, better than nothing, but just please buff this, like, any amount at all. Like, just make it all my spell slots, please. And also, still, give me other spell slot at 6. It'd be so much better. And heck, if there was an extra spell slot at 6th, it would be so much better, because then it would be like, oh yeah, at 6th level, I get 2 spell slots back now. And then at 17th, I get 3. So there would be some actually decent progression. Not amazing, but still. It'd be better. Warlock subclass. Actually worse now. Because the Pact Boons got moved to Invocations, so you're not guaranteed to have them, and yeah. But we'll get to them. And of course, Contact Patrons now at 9th, because Mystic Arcanum starts at 11th. Perfectly fine. I believe this also matches up with when Cleric and Druid get their commune spells, so yeah. This is the perfect level to have it. Otherwise, it's unchanged. Mystic Arcana, welcome back. Oh, how you were missed as a feature. And oh boy, you will not be missed as an invocation. Eldritch Master. At 20th level. Magical Cunning regains all Pact Magic slots. What the hell, Wizards? I have to wait the entire game for Magical Cunning to do what it should have done from the start. Thank you. I feel insulted. Also, this could totally be a better feature. Like, please. Give me something that actually makes me better with Magic. Not just, oh yeah, you know this problem you've had the entire game? Yeah, it's not until the very end that we actually fix it. Invocations. So, first off, what the heck happened to the Pact Boons? Well, they're now invocations. Have no barely any prerequisites, though Pact of Chain for some reason is level 2 instead of available from the start, which is really insulting. But let's look at what happened. So Pact of the Blade. Unfortunately, it's the biggest problem that Pact of the Blade faces is because you don't get medium armor anymore by default, your durability is way lower than it should be. And you still kind of need Hexblade. And a problem of this Unearthed Arcana is Hexblade is nowhere to be seen when it really needs an update. I don't care what fancy idea you have for this subclass selections. Hexblade needs to be reworked and renamed. They need the blade part removed so we can once and for all end its parasitic relationship with Pact of the Blade. Especially since this version, it's more of a problem again, because you kind of need the armor proficiencies Hexblade has. Please, Wizards, end this. So, Pact of the Blade. A few changes happened. For one, you get the Mastery property now, which, yeah, it fits. And then, it's only Charisma damage modifier, but your spell mod doesn't change anymore, so fair. But you can change the damage type to Necrotic, Psychic, or Radiant. This is cool, and also, oh boy, is that Radiant damage type very powerful. Yeah. I mean, sure, it's not 4th edition with a Radiant Mafia, but oh boy, does doing Radiant damage actually matter a bit. It is nice, though, that you do get magical damage types, which I don't mind, actually. Like, the only thing that could make it crazier is if Force damage was on the list. In which case, Necrotic and Psychic would not matter at all, because you're always choosing Force or Radiant. But, oh well. Also, you'll notice, you're not restricted to not heavy weapons anymore. So you can take heavy weapons freely. Though the heavy property is changed in this, so you do kind of need strength to use heavy weapons, but oh well. It's fine. But the point is, you can use two-handed weapons again. Thank you. Only caveat is that heavy should probably have a caveat that it's based on the attack roll stat. So it's not just strength for melee weapons, dexterity for ranged. It should be whatever you use to attack with it. Just in case, for one, if you had like a two-handed finesse weapon, then you would want dexterity for the heavy property instead of strength. Or if it was a thrown ranged weapon, then you would want strength because you're using strength to throw it. Also, if you were to get like a big cannon or something as a weapon, that would also be nice to have strength for it, even though it's ranged. But it's just a slight nitpick there. But here, you can get two-handed weapons again, which is nice because you kind of want to grab a two-handed weapon, just because you don't get shields. So, yeah. But you did lose default Thirsting Blade, so it's back. We'll get into that monster in a moment. But overall, I do actually think Pact of the Blade is a bit better. Similar with Pact of Tome, actually, which we'll talk about now. It's basically during a short or long rest, so it's not a separate thing anymore. You can summon the Book of Shadows. You get 3 cantrips again, which, as I mentioned previously, is kind of a net 0 because, yeah, you don't have the full arcane cantrip list anymore. And I do hope they change the Warlock list a bit more because, oh boy, do 4th and 5th level need more spells. Especially because of another change, which we'll get into in a moment. But having the 3, I do like getting the 3. It's nice to have it all. But it kind of... And the reason it's net 0 is you don't have Eldritch Blast default anymore, so it's a cantrip tax again. Whoop-de-doo. Great. So as the ritual stuff, don't get to add more in any way. Still a spellcasting focus, but wait. there's a third thing it does now. You get an extra spell slot. Yes! But it's only once per day. What? So ironically, this is another thing where One D&D has converged on stuff I was doing. And I gave Pact of the Tome an extra spell slot. Except it was a normal spell slot. This is kind of annoying because now you have another spell slot to track because it doesn't work like your other spell slots. Why? There's no problem with adding another spell slot, like, per short rest for Warlocks. It's already a thin resource. And it doesn't even scale either. It's like, why? Why is this once per day? It's so silly. It's like, why? Just why? Ugh. And of course, both of these also lost their default agonizing spells, which kind of sucks. But we'll see what happened with Agonizing Blast in a moment. Back to the chain. They went backwards. So, for one, it's no longer summoning a unique familiar, or a templated familiar. Now, Find Familiar is back to its old version, because it was summoning templated versions before, and you get a +6 list. So you get a skeleton or slayed tadpole now. Those are your extra choices. Ugh. You had it better in the previous version. This went backwards. Why? It's so garbage. I don't want to use the attack action to command my familiar. I don't want to have to choose one of 6 extras and be stuck with those extra options, even if it doesn't fit my build. Though at least it works better with Undead, Hexblade, and Great Old One, because there's an aberration on the list now. And Undead, but poor Celestial, Fathomless, and oh, why am I building it on Genie? Yeah. Thank you, Wizards. I still hate this. This is just bad. And it's like, I don't even get the Speak Through Familiar anymore, which, sure, it wasn't great, but it was nice to have at least. And Voice of Chainmaster is just gone. They didn't bring it back, even. Which, I mean, not a big loss, but the point is, it's gone. Last time they just let you get it for free. At 5th level, of course, but oh well, you got it. Yeah, Pact of the Chain. Unequivocally worse. Pact of the Tome and Blade, I like these versions better, but let's get into the big problem with them being invocations. Let me point something out. They aren't mutually exclusive. And guess what you can do? You can take them all and just have every invocation, like all the Pact Boons, together, and then grab all their best stuff. Which, as we'll see, starts to get really, really crazy. I get people like the idea that you can mix and match invocations in their abilities. That's a cool idea in theory. The problem, you should not be able to use them all in a single build. Nor should it be so easy to get them all. And to get an extra one where it's like, oh, at 2nd level you can have 2 Pact Boons. Or you could even get all 3, though chances are you're getting Agonizing Blast instead, and then you don't get all 3 until probably 7th level. Unless you get Eldritch Adept, in which case you can get it earlier. But actually, no, you can get them all by 5th level. So you can get them all by 4th or 5th level. And still get Agonizing Blasts. So, yeah. I don't know what the crazes Wizards was thinking with this, but basically, what you can do now is just get a best of, like, a best of everything build and just grab all the invocations. Yeah, you just grab them all and grab their best stuff. So, I can grab Pact of Tome, get some more spells, get Pact of the Blade, get the Familiar out. I can get Thirsting Blade, get the extra attacks, get Life Drinker later. Maybe get Investment of the Chainmaster as well, because why not? We grab Gift to the Protectors, Eldritch Smite, and just get all their best stuff. And that's honestly probably the best build you could get, because you get the extra cantrips and spell slot of Pact of the Tome. You get the Familiar of Chain, even though Chain is admittedly in a worse place than Pact than it was before, where the other two kind of got better with their base stuff. And then you have the melee stuff of Pact of the Blade. And you're just a general good stuff build. And it's despicably powerful. Yeah, this should not be possible. Because you just take the best of everything and suddenly you're a versatility monster. Arguably worse than a bard, because let's get into Thirsting Blade now. So, at 5th level, it works the same. And then they added this despicable part. When you reach level 11, you now get 2 extra attacks. What the hell, Wizards? I know I've already gone on this tirade before, but why the hell did a caster get triple attack when neither barbarian or monk gets it? What the heck? And let's not forget, Life Drinker exists. And it seems that Hex is back to its old version, where it could trigger multiple times per turn. So you can make 3 attacks and get 2d6 extra damage per attack with a freaking greatsword. So you can grab a greatsword, which is 2d6 per attack, add your charisma modifier to each attack, and get 2d6 with each attack. What? So that's 4d6 plus charisma across 3 attacks. What the heck, Wizards? And sure, I get some people are like, oh, this makes Pact of the Blade scale decently compared to Eldritch Blast. Yeah, I get that. But you can still get good Eldritch Blast and this. As a caster, I'm sorry, guys. No. This needs to go. And this is the one thing I will unequivocally say. If this releases, I'm going to house rule that it doesn't exist. That part, no. It's homebrewed out. You don't get that. And Warlock will just be the most overpowered class in the game because they can do anything and everything. And can do stuff better than a frickin' Marshal while being a caster that gets full level casting. It's despicable. It shouldn't exist as it does. But it does. And I hate it. And then going over to Agonizing Blast. So this and Eldritch Spear both work kind of the same. So they now can work with any Warlock cantrip that deals damage. So the two biggest problems I have with this is A, these aren't repeatable for some reason, which is kind of weird because this should be. Like, I should be able to have multiple options that I get with these buffs. And Agonizing Blast, it's still an invocation. Invocation tax is still here. And it's just as bad as ever. And it's still busted with Eldritch Blast, where it's like, why wouldn't I Agonizing Blast with Eldritch Blast? There's, like, no reason not to get it, because Eldritch Blast is still overpowered with it. I like the effort that it's like, oh, it can buff other cantrips, which is nice, but I would like if Eldritch Blast wasn't as crazy with it still. And it's like, some people are like, oh, I want to make Eldritch Blast irrelevant. No, it wouldn't. Not really. Eldritch Blast is still the best with this, even if it's once per turn. Because let's also remember that it has other invocations that buff it. Like, Repelling Blast was... Yeah, like Repelling Blast, which is only on Eldritch Blast still, which I think is fine. You got Grasp of Adar and Lance of Lethargy. They all only buff Eldritch Blast, so... And Eldritch Blast has multiple attack rolls, so even if it doesn't trigger multiple times per target, so you can't stack them up on a single target, if you do target one creature, you have multiple chances to proc it. So it's like, oh, the first attack didn't hit? Okay, I have another attack to hit with it and still get the bonus, whereas other cantrips are all or nothing. So it's a lot more consistent with it. So it's still actually better with Eldritch Blast. And keep in mind, Eldritch Blast is still the best damaging cantrip in the game. On its own, it is the best. By far. And it wasn't until Sorcerous Burst was introduced that something actually has the potential to be even crazier. Though now it's not as good at doing that, but it's a lot more consistent, which is also nice. And actually has the potential to be even crazier when it goes well. Because 9d8 damage is nothing to scoff at, especially when it's all 8s. But yeah, because that's 72 damage with a cantrip. Of course, you'll almost never get that, but if you do, oh boy, is that fun. But yeah, Agonizing Blast, especially coming after the version in Playtest 5, where Pact of the Tome got better Agonizing Blast for free at 5th level, I still prefer the idea that that alone exists. Eldritch Spear, basically a fixed distance spell. I'm so glad they said at least 10 feet. Yeah, I don't think anyone would want to see that say at least 5, because, oh boy, that would be busted. But here it's like, yeah, I don't mind this. It's not bad. Like, I mean, the 30 times your Warlock levels, kind of absurd when you think about it, because, like, any spell that, like, has the 30 feet or lower, that's a crazy bonus. Because, it's like at least doubling the range of the spell. It's crazy. And it scales up pretty powerfully, but at the very least, it's fine. Eldritch Spear, it's arguably a bit better now because it scales up to be quite crazy, because it'll add 300 feet at 10th level. So yeah, it's nice, especially for spells like Poison Spray. Especially when this first came out, I was like, okay, this with Poison Spray, quite powerful, because you can get a 40-foot minimum Poison Spray, which is a lot better than 10 feet. So as for some other changes, of course, Hexer and Favor of the Chainmaster were removed. There are a few notable changes. Ascendant Step is now 5+. Thank you. Like, waiting till 9th for it, it's kind of crazy. Beast Speech was removed because Speak with Animals is baseline as a ritual. Devil's Sight also works in dim light as well as darkness. Fun fact, that doesn't work in dim light. It's like, wait, what? Yeah, it's stupid. Don't worry about it. Eldritch Mind is back from Tasha's Cauldron and everything. Thank you. Yeah. It's certainly nice. Eldritch Sight is gone. Gonna miss that one, because At Will Detect Magic was cool. Eldritch Smite, back from Xanathar's. It's nice. Would be nice if, especially because you can actually take this at 5th level now. Thank you. It was kind of annoying before, where it's like, oh great, I have to wait till 7th at least to get it. Or retrain. Eyes of the Runekeeper is removed, since Comprehend Languages is on the Warlock spell list, and Cast as Ritual. Sure. Investment of the Chainmaster is here now, which, yeah, it's a good one, at the very least. Fiendish Vigor. It makes False Life even better, even though this was unnecessary. But I will actually say, so they basically made False Life do what it should do by default, where you don't roll HP. You don't roll for the THP. Because it was only good with Fiendish Vigor. So just make it do that by default. And then Warlocks can just cast it at will. It's like, this was already the one way you cast False Life. You're not using it another. So, yeah. That's a weird one. Gaze of Two Minds works on any whirling creature, not just humanoids. And you have to be in 60 feet to cast spells through them. Fair. Gifted Depths is here from Xanathar's, even though you don't ever really take it. Investments here from Xanathar's, or Tasha's. Eldritch Mind's here from Tasha's, replacing Hexer. Fair. Unless it's the first one, now repeatable. Kind of fair, but potentially powerful, because you now trade invocations for feats and get a ludicrous number of feats, but okay. That does mean you still take Magic Initiate with it, which is kind of silly. Life Drinker is now Necrotic, Psychic, or Radiant. And the HP is now your hit dice, so fair. Because that one, the previous version, as I mentioned, yeah, rolling 1 for the extra damage, yeah. You can also trigger the healing multiple times per turn, but it is based on your hit dice, so you do have to expend a hit dice, though. But basically, you roll hit dice when you do it. So, yeah. Not half bad. Certainly a nice upgrade. With the only problem being that at 11th level, you can trigger this a 3rd time. Yeah. That gets kind of crazy. Master of Myriad Forms is 5th level rather than 15th. Great. One with Shadows. Free invisibility now. Fair. It's a lot simpler where it's like, yeah, no, it's just invisibility. Make it simpler. Otherworldly Leap is now level 2+. Also, it's been moved away from Ascendant Steps level. Thank you. Oh my gosh, waiting for 9th level to get an at-will first level spell that is straight up worse than another at-will spell at the same level that is a 2nd level spell? Yeah, stupid. Of course, the Pact Boons are here, Thirst and Blight is here, and absolutely busted with the change that was uncalled for and an absolute insult. Visions of Distant Realms is now 9th level. Whispers of the Grave is now 7th. So they moved a lot of the at-will invocations earlier, so you can get them at a more appropriate level, which is great in all cases. Yeah. So, of course, yeah, please remove these as invocations. And also, as a solution to the 2nd Pact Boon idea, bring it as an invocation to get a 2nd Pact Boon, but you can only take it once, and it adds 7 to the minimum level to get invocations with that Pact Boon. So, alright, just I had to take the dogs out. Don't worry. Also noticed that, yeah, we're at over an hour now. But yeah, I have to say, basically just screw the invocations at first level. Bring in the Pact Boons as the first level feature again. If the extra ones is like, okay, at like 7th level, you get to take the Pact Boons, like you can take a extra Pact Boon, and then all of its stuff is +7 in level. So if you took Pact of the Blade as your 2nd invocation, then Eldritch Smite would require level 12 to take as an invocation, or Life Drinker wouldn't be till level 15 or level 16. And just have it like that, where it heavily limits your ability to, for one, you can't just take everything and make a kitchen sink build. That potential, gone. Get it out of there. And then it also makes it harder to get invocations of that 2nd Pact Boon. So you can't just immediately grab Pact of the Blade and then grab Thirsting Blade, for example, being a good one. Or Eldritch Smite. It's like, no, you have to wait still. It's as if you were leveling it from that level, basically. So, yeah, it's... And that kind of make it... And also, of course, the upgrade, where it would be a 5th level upgrade, well, that you have to wait till level 12 to get now. Just as a sort of, okay, you have to wait a while to get it, so it's not as powerful. And basically heavily limit the power of it, so... And make it more balanced, where it's like, yeah, you can do it, you just have to wait for a lot of stuff now. Also on investment as Jane Master, because I didn't really mention it, I don't think it was necrotic or radiant damage before, but, oh well. The bonus action to attack, could that have just been default, or... And the your save DC. Could those just be default? Please? I don't like them. Albeit, with reverting Pact of the Chain to doing more like what it did in Playtest 5, with a templated familiar instead, yeah, that would be a lot better. That wouldn't really be necessary, because the bonus action to command, I would actually prefer. And then have the your save DC be baked in, because screw that. Yeah, it's just such a mess, but yeah. Bring back all previous packs of chain, because it was better. And give it an actually decent upgrade. Like unique abilities for each one, where maybe even make it where each one has a special action it can take. Or maybe it's a special bonus action or something, I don't know. But basically they have a unique ability they get. that is a special action they get, like, once per short rest even. Maybe. Where they get this, unique thing that they get to do. Which is like, yeah, the creature type matters. And all that. Yeah, it's... Ugh. And I don't even mind if it's like, yeah, there's 5th level upgrade, but you only get 1 extra invocation at 5th. Instead of getting 2 extra, you get 1. Which would be fine. Like, maybe you get ultimately, like, 2 less invocations. Or maybe even you get an extra invocation at... I don't know. Well, I don't know, actually. But basically, like, maybe you do get 2 invocations then, but I don't know. Just have fewer invocations, slightly fewer, maybe capping out at 9 or even 8 would be fine. But just make it where you don't have the 1st level invocation, instead you get the Pact Moons again. They have proficiency that they come with. Blade and Tome work like they do here in this Unearthed Arcana, except maybe with a slight tweak where Pact of the Blade specifies that you use Charisma to determine the qualification for heavy, which would be fine. And then also make Tome's spell slot a normal spell slot rather than a long rest spell slot, because that really underwhelming, I'll be honest. Like, sure, it helps, but I would rather just have a free normal spell slot. That's not that crazy to ask for. Well, then it is. And then also Agonizing Blast and Thirsting Blade get removed. Thirsting Blade is also reverted to its previous version, where it wasn't absolutely busted compared to a Martial. But yeah, that would be nice. Also, new capstone feature. Please. This is just an insult. And just make it that what it Magical Cunning does by default, which isn't that busted. And then also 3rd spell slot comes at 6th level, with you capping out at 5 now. And base Warlock would be perfect, or all but perfect. I mean, only subclass at 1st level can make it absolutely perfect, in my opinion. But, oh well. But moving on, it is time for the Fiend. So, what do they do here? First and foremost, expanded spell list is now called Patron Spells. And you automatically know them all. Thank you, Wizards. So much nicer. Unfortunately, you lost Fireball. I mean, sure, you get Fear, but has anyone ever casted Stinking Cloud? I mean, I guess it did take a spell known, so you weren't taking it, but yeah. I mean, I guess you do get Flame Strike later still, but which is kind of redundant with Fireball, but eh. It is what it is, but oh well. Also, once per day, you got a free spell slot for a patron spell. Granted, you were a half-caster here, so that's kind of meh. But hey, I mean, free patron spell, nice. My one problem with it is you don't free cast it at the highest level known, which means you're only really wanting to free cast the newest spells you have. So at 3rd, you're only wanting to free cast a Burning Hands or Command. 5th, only Scorching Ray and Suggestion. 9th, Fear, Stinking Cloud, though probably sticking with Scorching Ray because those Stinking Cloud kind of sucks, and Fear, not always useful. 13th level, Blighter, Wall of Fire. 17th level, Flame Striker, Insect Plague. That's it. So it would be nice if it was just you cast it at the highest level known instead. Oh yeah, Dark One's Blessing also triggers when anything dies next to you, which, nice. That makes a lot more sense, I'll be honest. It's because when because the stuff that triggers only when you kill something, very low. And it's kind of similar to what I was doing, where, albeit it doesn't also trigger if you have something with Hex on, which is a real missed opportunity here because you do have Hex by default. It would have been nice if it was like, oh, if you have a spell actively affecting the target when it dies, then you do it. But yeah. So that one's a nice change. Dark One's Unluck. Now has spell mod uses per day. Nice. I get to use this more. That's fun. So add that D10 a lot more. Nice. Fiendish Resilience. No longer negated by magic or silvered weapons, which, yeah, rarely came up, so fine. They can change it with a short and long rest. Yeah. That's kind of silly. Of course, it's not as silly as what Bear Barbarians were doing for the longest time, which, yeah. But, oh well, it's very powerful, because you can choose any damage type, eat short and long rest, so yeah. Hurl Through Hell can be redone with a 4th level spell slot. Also includes a saving throw for the target. Yeah. I still wish it did fire and cold damage, but oh well. Just because it's like you're hurling them through hell. Like, you're going through burning areas and freezing areas. Please let that do fire and cold. Or cold and fire. Maybe necrotic and poison too, but just have fun with it. Like, please let me do more damage types with this, rather than just psychic. Missed opportunity there. But it's nice. What changed? Well, patron spells modified to reflect the change back to pact magic. You get Fireball back. Thank you. Flame Strike got changed for Geas. Who uses that spell? Fire Shield is here instead of Blight, which you could learn by default, so yeah. It's pretty nice, because the spell list change, yeah. Not great to have duplicate spells of 4th or 5th level, but GS is an oddball, because, like, why would I ever use that? But, oh well. It's there. But I do like I would have liked to lose Stinking Cloud, because you don't use that. Nobody likes it. It's just there. Existing, and meh. You don't get the free cast anymore, which is quite a shame, but well. It's nice to have it as, like, yeah, you get free spells known. You don't have to worry about learning them separately with your spells known. Instead, it's just, yeah, you know these now. Thank you. So much better. Dark One's Luck, once per roll. Because the previous version, turned out you could use multiple times on one roll, and that was not intended. So they changed that. It's like, oops. So now it works as intended. Fiendish Resilience, yeah, it didn't change. Hurl Through Hell is lowered by 2, but you can still cast it again with spell slots. I don't know why they specified level 5 spell slot, but I guess technically you can take levels in Sorcerer, and you could cast it at 1st level with this, but it does read kind of weird when you're always using level 5 spell slots, so yeah. Also, it incapacitates the target, so yeah. Because, fun fact, enemies hurled through hell could plane shift out of it. Yeah. It's charisma save before being thrown in. It also doesn't damage fiends, which, fair. but it's incapacitated, so they can't teleport away. I think it's only... Yeah, so it instantly does the damage, and it's incapacitated until the next turn. So, yeah. I still wish they changed the damage, but oh well. Fiend Patron, great. Like, literally the only nitpicks I have are Dark One's Blessing should also trigger when you have a spell active on somebody and they die. So, if, say, a creature under Hex or Bestow Curse dies, you also get this. Just because it'd be fun to have that, like, curse aspect of, oh, somebody cursed by you dies and you get the temporary hit points. And also help with the consistency even more. Where this, it's just like, yeah. I mean, Pact of the Blade, it's even more consistent, but ranged builds, not much has been added. And Hurl Through Hell, still not happy with psychic damage. It's kind of the last of the core 3 that I associate with it. So, yeah. Other 2 are kind of interesting, but I do have to mention it again, even though it's not changed. So who forgot to change Radiant Soul? Because it stacks with your Agonizing Blast. So you can get Sacred Flame, or any fire spell on the Warlock list, and with Pact of the Tome, and then double your Charisma modifier when it hits, if you Agonizing Blast it. That does not come off as intended. Sure, it does make it scale decently with Eldritch Blast, but I mean, it's Sacred Flame. It's less damage dealt and is a saving throw. So you still want Eldritch Blast. I wish this wasn't... this might need to get changed entirely, because it's kind of redundant with the idea that Agonizing Blast is affecting more stuff and may even just be a Pact of the Tome only thing. So this should probably get reworked, at the very least, to change it to, if it doesn't already, add it. So you can't stack it. But yeah, that has been the Warlock of One D&D in all of its janky glory. And that has also been the last of the classes I've recorded, and it took an hour and a half. Yep. If you took bets on whether this would take longer than an hour, well, unsurprisingly, you won. But anyway, if you enjoyed this sort of stuff, like and subscribe to stay tuned in for more One D&D stuff, as well as me talking about other D&D stuff and doing other game stuff. Maybe even returning to Ride to Hell soonish, maybe. I don't know. But anyway, without further ado, I'll see y'all next time. Halo Zoo out. Oh, also, I might actually do monks with the next Unearthed Arcana they show up in, but oh well. Bye.